G'day beginners woodcarvers. Here we are again. It's another week and it's Friday Night Live. Ta-da! So, what are we going to discuss this week? Well, it's been an interesting week. I have my coffee, I have my cigarette. It's been an interesting week. The feed has been pumping. I've not been on it so much, and I have been away and enjoying some of my time away. Hello! Hopefully I'm in Beginners Woodcarvers and I'm not doing this live on my own feed. G'day guys. Hello Brock. Hopefully I said that right. Good evening. Well, to me it's morning. It's 10:30 in the morning. Well, 10:32. I'm late. It happens. Okay, this week we have finishing your calves. What finishes to use? I for the first time ever, I bought some Scandinavian oil, which is Danish oil. I used that and got a surprise. It wasn't quite what I expected. Yay! Yeah, hopefully you do have a signal. Hi, Jerry. So I got myself some Danish oil, and I got some Karanuba polish. It's all backwards to me, but I've never used this. I've never used the Danish oil. I've always used a polyurethane clear, usually a glossy finish, and I've never really expanded into the different finishes. And because I got a birthday gift for a hardware store, and I bought wax and oils because I would never buy them myself. Don't have a need. Hi John, how you going? So yeah, I've never used any other finishes other than polyurethane, and the subject matter has come up, and because I've got Danish oil, that gives me the opportunity to try it. I haven't done the Karanuba polish yet because I don't apply sandpaper much to the carvings. I try and get them as smooth as possible with a knife or with other tools, and I rarely go, hi Tammy, I rarely use sandpaper on my carvings, because now that I'm carving in gelatine or in basswood, it's so soft that if I go at it with sandpaper, if I'm sanding, say, a cheek, I take part of the nose away, and this isn't what I intend to do. So sanding has got to be spot on, and because of the scale of carvings are so small, it makes it difficult to not obliterate other details. So when it comes to polishes, to use a polish on a rough finish, hey Brenda, because it's using a polish, well, a polish, it has to be smooth to start with, otherwise I discussed with somebody this morning about lint when you're carving something and raising the grain. G'day Brett. Here's the Texas Santa. Yeah, because raising the grain. Maggie, g'day. When you rub a carving down and you put any kind of fluid on it, well, you get the raised grain. Now, if we were to talk about grain being a whole lot, g'day Wayne. If we talked about, I use sandpaper for me, utensils only basically, otherwise I like the look of the carve finish. Yeah, well, this is it. I mean, if you're going to hand carve something, leaving it so it looks hand carved as opposed to factory, g'day Ned, instead of like a factory product that has had all the sandpaper and it's as smooth as a baby's bum. Yes, for utensils. Good point. But Jens, how you going? With using some of the finishes, if you have to apply with a cloth, well, you're going to end up with lint, and it's a hassle because the grain raises. If we looked at wood being a whole bunch of straws, when you cut and sand, you cause a cap to go over some of those pores, and that looks like it's smooth, and it's the pores have filled up with sawdust, with the top part. G'day, Dave. Because the top part is going to fall over the top of the tube and cap the tube off. When you apply a finish to it, that piece curls up, and that's why whenever you hear sand between coats, it's because the grain is going to raise. Now, in the files, there's a file that I took from somewhere else, so copyright infringement, yeah, guilty. I've taken the file because it talks about raising the grain. And when doing spoons, it says to wash the spoon before you apply any kind of finish. By washing it, the water makes the cap flip up. So then, oh good, well done. So when you apply the water, those caps raise up, and that's your roughness. So that's what you're taking off when you've given the first coat. And all of us have noticed that when you've sanded it super smooth, then you coat it with a coat of varnish. The wood drinks that varnish because the finishing product is absorbed into the pores of the wood, and it then, depending on the type of finish you're using, depends on how deep it goes. The first coat drops into them, so you g'day Tina. The finishing falls into the tubes, and it goes down as far as it needs to, and then it hardens. The oils evaporate, it leaves the resinous product that's in most of the varnishes. They used to use pine, watered down pine sap years ago when experimenting to try and find a good finish, and that's the history of the development of the finishes that we've got. That we like it smooth, and we like it waterproofed and weathered, weatherproof, environmental proof. So that's part of the reason why we finish everything, so it's got that nicety of it. But the grain raises. Now, in the files, there's a file called Raising the Grain, and it tells you exactly what needs to be done. I'm not near my computer, so I can't access any of it, and it's probably better when I'm on here, because otherwise I suddenly, look, this computer, and I can get distracted as well. So when it comes to raising the grain, by washing it first of all with a light coat of, not soaking it, just a light coat of water, well, as it dries, all of those little caps are going to raise up, and then one more sand, you're going to take them off, and then when you apply your finishes, you're going to get a smooth finish. But that's if you sand. If you're carving, when you carve with the grain as against the grain, you get two different effects. When you work against the grain, I think you get chip out, and when you work with the grain, it's smooth. Now, I read something that basically was contrary to that said, if you imagined a tree growing, it's one cone over the top of the next cone over the top of the next cone to create the tree. Now, all those cones are made up of straws, fibres, allowing the fluids to run up from the roots into the tree. It starts to get a bit botanical, but to get finishes. Now, I hadn't tried Danish oil until the other day. Now, I expected a colour change. I didn't get a colour change. I just put a clear product on and sealed one of my carvings, and I was majorly disappointed, if I'm honest, because I've been using polyurethane varnish, and today it came up that lacquers used to be used for French polishing. So when you say the word lacquer, you're really talking about shellac, and you're talking about French polishing process, which is going up through the grades and then beeswax and so on to replace the varnish that we use as a polyurethane one coat varnish. Takes 2 or 3 coats to get a nice finish. No, it didn't darken at all. I'm using Gelatong, which is, no, that one's basswood. This stuff here has the colour of Gelatong. So when I apply stuff to that, yes, it goes a bit yellow and it becomes glossy, like it's got a finishing coat on it, but it didn't darken. I was expecting it to darken up. I was expecting a brown content in there, but that was my expectations, because I'd never touched Danish oil. I've only read what's floated to the surface in the group. G'day, Mike. So I've learnt about these things. My backgrounding was metal industry, so when it comes to answering questions about finishes for wood, I'm a little bit stumped. I'm still learning. And the group has taught me a whole lot about Danish oils, walnut oil, the food safe mineral oils mixed with beeswax, which somebody told us how they make their butter and the ingredients this week. I saved it in my save files that anybody ever asks, I'm going to link them to that it was so good about how they make their spoon butter, basically, and the mineral oils, and I think they use, was it walnut oil? But of course, a while back we had a discussion about what makes a spoon go rancid, and it's vegetable oils, because there's a organic content to a spoon. Now, we don't want inorganic objects, although it does say that yes, shellac does leave a yellow tint. On a lot of woods you wouldn't see it, depending on how blonde the wood is, and as gelatong, like this is actually a tad more yellow. That's basswood, and that's gelatong, and in this lighting you can't really see, but this is a little yellower than the basswood. Just discovered that gelatong is available in England. I did link somebody the other day to who sells it, so I have that information if somebody reminds me later on. Danish tung oil darkens. Yeah, it's the tung oil part that darkens. Yes, okay, it does shade ivory slightly. So Danish oil, I guess it depends on what brand you have, and which one you use. I like the idea. Hi Jens, I've been using beeswax and orange oil. Yes. I read about orange oil because it's citrus. It has a certain amount of acidity to it, which then gives you some protection from organic things. It does give you a barrier. It's a good mix. Preferred tung oil for my hardwoods. Yes, yeah. Well, softwoods versus hardwoods, different outcomes, different results. You guys teach me. I didn't know anything about this. G'day, Kenneth. I didn't know anything about the finishes because Cabotane Clear, that's a matte varnish. I've had this tin for a while. I used it yesterday. It sounds like it's liquid, but when I went to stir it, all of the resins have dropped to the base and basically hardened, so that's not very useful. It's oil based, but meh. That's what I've always used, because to me, as a metal finisher, you use a uniform way of, when you find a way of doing it, the steel has to be de-waxed, so that the paint sticks to the steel when you prime it. If there's grease on there, then of course that repulses the oils that you're painting it with, so everything has to be washed down with cellulose thinners in the metal industry. So that's kind of, I've been biased to simple finishes, and simple finish is I call it varnish, but of course lacquer is something different, varnish is something different. Varnish is a simplified term. I write varnish when I mean polyurethane, but polyurethane is a lot harder to spell than varnish, so laziness, I suppose. But it is interesting, and the fact that you guys are teaching me, you bring forward information that I don't know, so then I go and Google it, and I read up, and I find out as much information as I can about the stuff that you're teaching me, that I am then able, that when somebody says to me, what's the answer to this? I would rather have experiential knowledge than just theoretical or second-hand knowledge, hearsay. In the group, there is oftentimes people ask a question and they'll get lots of opinions. It's not necessarily facts they're getting opinions, and those opinions are sometimes wrong. I fret, I get quite frustrated. Where are the most bees hives? You'll find beeswax in any hardware department store that covers hardware, because usually they have a French polishing section, and beeswax will always be in your French polishing section of a hardware store where they've got varnishes and finishes and paints, basically. I guess with beeswax, if you really want it, there are lots of, what are they called, aperists, beekeepers. Getting in touch with your local beekeeper, supporting your local industries is very, very useful, because if we buy it and it's made in China, that helps the Chinese economy. It doesn't help your locals. Locals struggle and they go out of business. They take on huge debts and to keep their farms running. And I would say get in touch with a beekeeper if you want beeswax, or you'll find it in the hardware department store. I haven't used beeswax ever. Craft stores here too. Depending on where you are, I'm giving a generalised global answer rather than you in America. You've got the best of everything. You really do. You're spoiled and you don't know it. I know because my choice of knives that I can get here are flex cut or files. So it's either the most useful flex cut are mass produced, pumped out by a bloody great press that cuts out the shapes of the gouges, and then they're factory finished so that they've got a nice sharp edge. Flex cuts are more than adequate. They are good tools, but they are beginners tools, I think. You can carve with flex cut brilliantly. G'day Jerry. You can carve anything you want with flex cut. I put an ad up this week, and I know that there's no selling in the group and no advertising in the group, but when somebody has got 65 flex cuts for $10 each, and I made it available to anyone that wanted to follow it up. I don't agree with selling and I don't agree with advertising, but knives and gouges and things we need. So when somebody says what knife should I use, and I'll say a flex cut KN600, which is a V-tool, a gouge and two different knives, I will advertise for flex cut in my response, because somebody wants to know what knives. Because the company was selling second-hand ones, I gain nothing out of it, so it's not I'm advertising or selling for myself. I'm just making available a piece of information that I think is value to the group. So as I'm the admin and no one can kick me out, I guess I can advertise in my own group as long as it's for the right reasons, and I think that one was for the right reason. John Overby brought it to my attention. He didn't post it into the group because we don't sell or advertise. It's on my discretion, so I chose to do that. If I had $650 spare, I'd buy the whole lot, because there's a bloody good. You would maybe replace one or two with a file, P file. File means arrow in German. Just a piece of useless information, but file means arrow. The files are got to be the world's best produced product. There might be custom builders that do it, but just for general public, I can only access flex cut and files. Oh, thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. I can only access files and flex cut, so I've got the best on the market and the most universally adequate. I was lucky. A member of the group made a Helvey available to me, a Helvey detailing knife, and I'm since using the Helvey because it's a little shorter. It's about half an inch shorter, 12mm shorter than the flex cut one. I find that I can do tighter curls, tighter corners. I've got more control because the cutting part is closer to my hand. That doesn't mean I can always reach, but I've kind of gone over to using the Helvey knife more than the flex cut knife. Now, I wouldn't have thought that had happened, but of course I hadn't tried them. Now, in America, you've got the best of the market because you've got custom knife makers that make knives for this industry, and a lot of them are probably better than the mass-produced stuff because you've got somebody's knowledge that's making a tool available. So because you've got so many, so many outlets that you can get carving. Carving really, the history of carving is more Scandinavian than any other country. They've been doing it for hundreds and hundreds of years. But of course, before industrialization, if you needed something, oftentimes somebody had to carve it. A family member sitting around the firelight would be sitting there with a knife, carving your bowls, your plates, your spoons, your cups. That would have all been done by hand, and we didn't have television, we didn't have radio, we didn't have distractions, so people did those things as it had a purpose. Now, we are in an area of time where we don't have to make this stuff for ourselves, we want to. So we really are kind of the last generation of, we've got access to the older folk who have been doing it for years, and we're introducing new people, younger people, to the art of carving, but it's become more of an art now rather than a necessity, which is a bit of a shame, because the demand for handmade, homemade items are very difficult. People don't want to buy. If you spend, good on you, Brock. Keeping the old skills alive, those old skills are cheap, valuable. If you want to make something and you've got no money, then you can use old-fashioned ways of doing things. History tells you how to do it without having the machines. But I've done 2 wooden spoons. That's all I've done, is 2 wooden spoons. I've got a couple of that I need to do. The first one I did with a power tool, which there's a video of me making it with a power tool, and it took me 20 minutes to completely make a spoon from start to finish. That's an adequate spoon. It's now in my kitchen. I use it. I did that one out of pine, and it took 20 minutes. I did it with a knife, and I didn't have any gouges at that time. All I had was some crappy homemade knives, and it took me 7 or 8 hours to dig out the bowl, to actually get it. Now, I hadn't made any spoons, so it wasn't like, it was the first one I did with a knife. It wasn't quick. I wasn't quick doing it. It was more the experience of doing it slowly. So the modern tools that we have a part to play, and in 50 years from now, the tools that we have will be older, traditional tools, because times move on. Slowly, they move on, and we have to be somewhat adaptable. So I like people that do things traditionally, but this group isn't based on traditional work. We incorporate so many different fields of wood carving that traditionally made things have value. But if you, my 2 spoons, if I wanted to sell my spoons, no selling, so not a problem. If I have my 2 spoons, one has taken me 20 minutes and it is bigger than the one that took me 8 hours. If I was to charge $10 an hour, 1 spoon $80, 1 spoon $3. You can make a spoon with just a knife, it's just slow. There is also a time-lapse video of me doing part of it, which speeds everything up. You don't hear me waffling, which I do terribly, I'm sorry. But you can do everything with a knife. It just takes too long. You don't need gouges. You don't need V-tools. If you've got a sharp blade on a knife, a penknife. If you're out in the woods and you need a spoon, your penknife will, in a few hours, create a spoon that you can use to eat from. It can be done with a knife. I proved it to myself that it could be done with a knife, and I was scared. I didn't think it could be. I didn't think I could do it. I did. But an 8 hour versus 20 minutes, which kind of says, well, traditional ways are slow, and you won't get the money if it is about money that you're looking for. An 8 hour spoon, an $80 spoon versus a $3 spoon, and the $3 spoon is bigger and more adequate. I'm not going to pay $80 for a handmade spoon. I'm not. I'm going to spend $3 on an adequate utensil. That's me, and I look at this industry. I look at the hobby. I look at what we do, and it's a lot more ranged than just spoons. And we've got some bloody good examples of spoons. You guys, wow! I'm gobsmacked often. There's quality of some of the things that this group produces. Just what you individuals produce, the glory is yours, because you have sat there and you've created that, and kudos to you. G'day, Carl. How are you, mate? Just saw you alive. Oh, no worries. G'day, Robert. It takes me a day or two depending on hours a day. If you're selling them versus time versus effort, always has an effect. But depending on customers, there are those that pay a lot for someone else's time. Yes, true, absolutely true. You will always have people that, traditional people will buy traditionally made things. People that appreciate the tradition. People that money is not really an object. I've always lived in the poor quarter, so I actually don't know what it's like to be able to go, you know what, I'll spend $80 on a spoon. But then we know that there are people with money that go into there are places in California that there's a $25,000 joining fee before you can even go into the restaurant to have food, and the meal might be $500 for a meal, and rich people know that poor people aren't going to be eating in there, so they pay the money so that the poor don't bug them. Elitism, I bloody hate it, but that's life. Can't avoid it, I suppose. There are always going to be some pigs that are more equal than others. Sorry, Orwell was quite right. And Big Brother was not a guidebook, it was supposed to be a warning. And yet, Big Brother is alive and true, and okay, we don't have the thought police yet, but I'll bet they're coming. Well, if you act on here like you're acting as a terrorist, then you're processed as a terrorist. You haven't actually been guilty of doing anything other than thinking about it, but so I suppose that's thought police. I suppose we have aspects of it. But progression, there's no stopping progress. With the increase of security is a decrease in freedoms, and that's what we're looking at. That's getting a bit deep and political, which I'll stay clear of because it only creates arguments. Lefts and rights, blacks and whites. Okay, so yes, the Danish oil, the Canuba polish. I haven't used Canuba yet. I haven't got around to actually polishing anything because it's only my big sculptures that I've done that are smooth enough for me to use a polish. And they're already varnished, so I can polish the varnish, which doesn't seem to me to be the point. But then they're not edibles. They don't have to be clean. It doesn't matter if they've got a chemical element to them. I read that you can polyurethane a spoon. You can use it about 6 weeks later because it will have all cured to a non-chemical based finishing product because of the way that it seals all of the tubes of the straws. Once it's hardened and cured, that's what oils do. There are some that don't cure, and they're the ones that you're looking at that potentially can go rancid. But the polymerization is the word I'm looking for, of the particles of resin, whether they be organic or inorganic, once they have cured, then they're not chemically active, so you can use polyurethane on a spoon. You just can't use that spoon for a few months. That's what I read. It was interesting, because I see all of the discussions about mineral oil and stuff, but it's the lower forming chemistry that's underneath that is what should be looked at. Because if you look at the chemistry of polymerization and filling the pores in the wood, once it's cured, it's cured. Wondering, I use yellow Simonized big yellow tin wax on cast iron surfaces. Wonder how it would work on wood. Well, it's going to work because it's a wax. Cured, yes, cured. Cured is when the polymerization process has finished. I don't have any of the books here. I'm going on memory of what I read. But yes, what happens is the oils bind with the fibers of the wood. They then harden. That hardening process, that polymerization of going from a liquid to a solid state is curing. So hopefully that answers your question, Jerry. You guys know a lot more about Danish oils and oils that you use to finish your product more than I do. I'm learning, I'm reading. Anytime I read something that I don't know, I go off and I read about it so that I'm somewhat informed. I don't remember everything, but I do remember the gist and guidelines of most, which I'm applying to this. Hi Kate, this is good. My father used to use it in solid block form when you make to liquid. Here is already done. Oh, wicked! Thank you very much for the link. I can't actually see more, but thank you for that link. There was a guy that posted on here earlier about gassing the wood with ammonia. Can you go into a bit of detail about that? I know nothing about that. I guess the ammonia being a basic, or what did we used to call it? Alkaline. I guess if you gas the wood, having an alkaline thing, I suppose that would kill any kind of bacteria. We have alkalines added to our waters. They didn't back away. Slowly, never losing eye contact. They kept their hands on their wallets. Yes, I did see that, and sorry, feed is running a bit quick. I've seen the 1%. There's a documentary about the 1%, and it was done by Johnson and Johnson's son. He was doing a documentary, and he was asking his father how one of the richest people in America could ignore the poverty and famines in other countries, and his father said, "I don't wish to talk about it. I don't want to be filmed." Elitism. It is there. 1% of the 1% own 90% of the money of the world. Those are the ones that don't want to interact with poor. We are useful. Somebody's got to take the garbage out. Somebody's got to do the shit work, and they pay for that. So they also pay for a lot of industry. They pay for a lot of jobs. It's their money that is used in prototyping and developing a lot of the tech that we have these days. They pay other people to do research. So you need the rich just the same as you need the poor. Balance in the world is what we require, and it's a bit scary out there. Not here, not where I live, so I'll leave that out there. I understand the mentality of elitism. I certainly don't want to be seen associating with someone that wears Crocs. But what about wooden clogs, which is what the Crocs are actually designed on, is the Danish wooden shoes that when you don't have leather and you're poor, you can carve your own set of shoes, and they're called clogs. I could associate with somebody with clogs on, especially if they haven't painted them and I can see the wood grain. I got given a gift that is monumental to me this week. Walking sticks, how to create your own walking sticks, by David Steely. David Steely died in 2013, unfortunately. Yes. Yeah, I wouldn't mind actually making a set just so that I can say that I've done them. Wooden sandals as well. I guess having wood based on the bottom, giving you the sole, would be, you could do a combination of leather and wood, and the wood just be the base. Some people like them. I apologise to the non-smokers that I am a smoker, but I'm a smoker, tough. Yeah, the book on walking sticks, brilliant. It shows you how to do peregrines. Yes, well, actually, mate, that's a good point. There are people that need to wear solid shoes that are therapeutic for therapeutic reasons. So Crocs aren't all bad. Unless, of course, they're in the Northern Territory and they're in the lake and they're looking to eat you, then that's a Croc you don't want to wear on your feet. Crocodile leather. Oh, you've got an Italian briar pipe. Have you made your own pipe yet? If you smoke a pipe, then it's a good thing to have a go at making your own, if you haven't already. So you wore sandals that had wood bottoms. Okay. That did look like a good book. Oh, look, Sue, I showed you something that I didn't share with the group mostly because of copyright. And not only that, it was applicable to the group that you're in, Jen's group. I'm so behind Jen. She does a great job with the Lean On Me project. That I exposed the book in video form in their group. Now, not everybody's in that group, so only 62 people had access to look at that video. So I just thought that I was so excited that the book was so full of good information that I had to share it. I just had to share. And if anybody wants, if anybody wants to see the book, then message me, and I can make a little video of it. And I can send that as in private message. Lovely. Okay, that's not very good. It's all right, I've just seen an animal. So yes, to the people in Jen's group, that book will be monumentally handy for walking canes, walking sticks. Brilliant. It's a brilliant book. But even for the carvers that don't necessarily want to make a walking stick, if you want to know how to make snakes, then it's in the book. Yes, the Irish brand Peterson are the better class of pipes around. But the thing about pipes is that if you look on YouTube, you look at some of the pipes that have been made, there are some fantastic combinations of characterizations with a practical purpose. One of the things that I like about utensils, kitchen utensils, is they have a practical purpose. A lot of what we carve, if you just carve a face, I've got a wall of ornaments that really become dust collectors. Just hang on a second. I will disappear. Have a look at my garden. Okay, sorry about I wasn't going to show. You're seeing that in reverse, I think, and I can't flip this around for some unknown reason. It shows things like mirror reflection. So when I post this as a video, it flips it round, but on here it looks, to me, it's backwards. But that's the book, Hand Carving Your Own Walking Sticks by David Steely. Yeah, David Steely, got the right book. Now, let's have a look. Have a slurp of coffee. Damn, I've talked so long, my coffee's gone cold. Right, okay. Oh, good. Thank you, Brett, for putting it up. There's the link to where you can get them. Now, it's hard to open a book in reverse, but okay, let's come around this way a little bit. I'll just have to make sure. These are some of the examples of what he does. Then there's the foreword. It tells you what woods are good. Snakes. Faces on canes. Peregrine falcons. Lizards. More snakes, more faces. Lots and lots and lots of different types of snakes. There it goes through good woods for sticks, ash white, ash green, ash mountain, beech, American, birch, black walnut, butternut and dogwood, maple, oak, yellow poplar, poplar, sycamore, aspen, quaker, basswood. I didn't know you could actually make, I wouldn't have thought basswood would have been sturdy enough to make canes, but apparently American basswood or linden is soft and light, and it's the wood of preference for many carvers because it cuts smoothly in almost any direction and accepts fine details and feather etching readily. I've carved a few snakes in it. The carving was easy, but the finished product marks too readily. You can make depressions in the wood with a fingernail, so as a walking stick it's more suitable as a wall hanging. Okay, and Jinko. But it tells you what tools to use. It tells you a block of how to secure your work that just has rope through it and carpet on the top, and a set of 2 different triggers that actually is a pedal, and on the back you wedge it, and you can hold anything from, I think he says 8-inch round to a pencil. with that block. Sorry, the camera's really hard to see both, and I have back problems, and this is putting me in a very uncomfortable position. But I got this from one of the members as a birthday present, and I'm so grateful to that member that I'll never ever be able to thank them enough, because the book goes through step by step how to make peregrine falcon canes. So even if you just want to carve a bird, you've got the heads in here, gives you all the designs, corn walking stick, corn snake, all the details of how to do it, how to do the scales, how to lay it all out, what tools to use, what waxes, how to finish it, how to hang it with a hook, and it goes into Cooper's hawks, black snake. I suggest that if you have any interest whatsoever in carving, that this is a bloody good book. It's very, very handy. It shows you how to utilize a branch coming out, like when doing a dragon. It covers that. Frogs, Celtic cross, timber wolf, there's a Bengali tiger, and then it's all about the author. So, Walking Sticks, Hand Carving Your Own Walking Stick by David Stealey. Brilliant book. Now let me look. I'd ever trust Basswood. I can't scroll back, so I may have missed some of your comments because I've got about this much of room on my phone. Rattlesnakes aren't even real snakes. Well, they're a snake. But that book is if you have any designs on making walking sticks, those books I cut off the hinge side, then scan the pages into my hard drive. Good idea, but remember, from my perspective, with being an admin of a group of 12, nearly 13,000 people, copyright infringement is something that I have to be incredibly careful for, because if somebody complains that, okay, I've just shown you that, now I've advertised a book, so I'm advertising, sorry. I'm advocating this book is a good book. Oh, of course, yes, Aussies, we've really got to watch out for snakes. It's one of the things you keep your eyes open for. The book is a really, really, really good book. It's got a hell of a lot of information in there. It's probably intermediate to advanced carvers rather than beginners, but even beginners, because it walks you through a couple of in there. It's a very handy book to have, and I'm so grateful. And frogs. I'm very grateful to the member that sent me the book. Thank you so much. I love it. I love it. As a birthday present, this knocked me out of the water, because information, inspiration, and then motivation are my three key words of this group. I do have to be careful of copyright. If somebody complains to Facebook that I'm infringing copyright, and it's true that I am, then they shut the group down, and I have to fix it, but they'll shut me down as well. And I don't want to suddenly have you guys go, where did the group go? Facebook can do that. Yeah, okay. There are a lot of poisonous snakes. Yes. But when you make them from this book, they're not poisonous. They may look poisonous, but they're not. And where Jen's Lean On Me came, the reason why I actually went through and I did a live video where I hung the camera off my chest, and I was able to look down at the book, and I was able to go through the pages one by one quickly, so that I'm not infringing copyright. Instead, I am advocating this book is a bloody good book, but it comes from Woodcarvers Illustrated, and any book that no worries. Good to see you. Thanks for joining in, Brock. What about the lacquer you use? It could be poisonous if you eat it. I don't know with shellac shellac is beetles. It has something to do with beetles. And I don't know, the fact that it's been used so often in French polishing, I don't know whether or not it's poisonous or not. Like I said, once it's polymerized and it's cured, then you've got no worries, but I don't know if it's I forget the white bread. I'm not sure if lacquer is poisonous. I wouldn't want to eat any kind of. But I suppose when you use a spoon in cooking, if it's cured, okay. The toilets go in the opposite direction to yours. They do. That's true. I'm not going to go and show you a water spiralling down, but it does. Perhaps we should have an album to recommend books without infringing. Yes, with a link to a supplier not selling, but yes. Good idea, Kate. Shellac is food safe. I thought it was. Look, there's lots of times that I don't know. You guys know a lot more on. We have lots of little pieces of information over a large group of people. It's down the drain whatever way you want it to. No. I lived in the UK, so I've lived in the Northern Hemisphere and I've lived in the Southern Hemisphere, and with no, you can make it spin the other way by hand action, but the water drains the opposite. So what have you got? Ours goes clockwise, yours goes counterclockwise, by anti-clockwise as I know it. I've lived in the Northern Hemisphere, I've lived in the Southern Hemisphere, and I can assure you the toilet doesn't flush the wrong way because it's just a big hole and the water just drops. But when the bath is running, it runs counterclockwise. No, clockwise, it goes clockwise, whereas yours goes counterclockwise. But so what? Yes, we've got poisonous snakes, we've got poisonous spiders, we've got drop bears, we've got sharks, we've got crocodiles, we've got kangaroos that want to fight, we've got a whole lot of nasty stuff. Clockwise, Northern Hemisphere. Okay, so it goes counterclockwise. Is there any finishing food safe when fuel could I have make on something? Once it's yes, the poisonous jellyfish, you can't swim in cans because there's one the size of a fingernail, and it affects your breathing and your nerves, so you don't want that. Drunk pigs that fight like cows, Look, Australia, ex-wives. Yes. I was going to say that's the most lethal thing. It's actually my ex-wife's birthday today, and I haven't sent her a message because I'm on here, and I'm a bit late. But I will send her happy birthday fairly soon. Yes. So finishes has really been the topic of this particular discussion. And thankfully, because there's been a couple of things that have actually come up this week, me buying it, somebody making some butter, and a discussion that was sitting there in my inbox this morning. So finishing products will well, their tongues can be. Finishing products. I guess. I mean, Dale Whitland did a paint finishing file that I just copied and pasted what he said and threw some photos in there. I still got to finish that off, but that's about painting techniques. I guess we should really have a file that covers the finishing products, the variants, and I could go to another site and I could take the information. Yes, big rats. The roux is a big rat, but they taste nice. I miss kangaroo steaks, just can't find it here in America. I'm surprised because we export kangaroo to the world. Like I know Poms can get it. I know the Brits can get kangaroo steaks. I know that we do export it. I prefer emu. Emu is my favourite edible. The drumsticks are well worth it. I'll have a drumstick, please. Can you imagine the size of the plate that you'd need? The whole table. Emus are horrible. They just look you in the eye and they show no fear, and because they're not a mammal, they're hard to read. And I shit myself when I see emus. They've got big feet, big claws, and everything in Australia seems to want to protect itself, and if you're in the way. Okay, Tammy. The turtle's my favourite. Only the Aboriginals are allowed to hunt them. Yes, true. You can get Vegemite. Yes, Vegemite is no longer Australian owned. Mostly it's not. Dinosaurus says, yeah, they're called crocodiles. Okay, pom is a slang term Aussies use for English people. Thank you, Robert. But do you know why immigrant and pomegranate apparently sound similar? So it's because of immigrant that pomegranate poms. That's how pom actually came up in the Australian terminology for a British person. Yeah, I get called a pom because I was born here, but I have a British accent. Doesn't matter how many times I say, "G'day, mate. How you going?" I try to sound like a pom, but I try to sound like an Aussie, but I fail miserably, and all Aussies go, "You're a pom." Get on toast and you can grease wheels bearing to look. Vegemite is gross. I don't know how you like it. Yes, but do you know? Okay, same way that Australians call Italians, Greeks, from that part of the Middle East, of Mediterranean, immigrant. Okay, so Australians call Italians wogs, but in Britain a wog is a dark-skinned person. It's a derogative term, so I don't personally use it in either country, but it was whilst on government service is how the word wogs came to be used by Brits for foreigners, dark-skinned foreigners, that whilst on government service they're wogs. It comes from the British Empire, when they were Britain was raping a good chunk of the planet, the same as the rest of Europe, because of the invention of a mechanical brass clock that enabled them to chart the southern waters, and that's why we are 14 odd hours apart between Australia and between the southern hemisphere and the northern hemisphere. They required a clock to be able to have Greenwich Mean Time and be a certain amount of seconds, minutes or hours away from that straight line, and that enabled them to chart the southern hemisphere, and that didn't happen until the 1700s, late 1600s, early 1700s. I think Hardwick was the name of the guy that came up with it. He was offered a $20,000 prize, which they fed him. They screwed him over. But he made a mechanical clock that was not affected by the tropics, the different moistures, temperature. It maintained a constant norm, and that was at the same time as the British Empire and Europe went and did their land grab everywhere. That America had already been found, but then you've got the Belgium in the Congo, you've got French Polynesia, you've got the Dutch found Australia in the first place, and then the Brits took it over. Dominance of China by the imperials, which is taught in Chinese schools still. Britain doesn't know what it did to China, but it's awful. Domination of the planet. It took 6,000 administrators to look after 100 million Indians from India. God. Yes, clock allowed southern hemisphere. The northern hemisphere they were able to do, but the southern hemisphere, because the polar star, they were able to always follow the North Star, so they were able to navigate the northern hemisphere. The southern hemisphere, it required a mechanical clock. Yes, good. They knew the Earth was round, but lately there is an upsurge in flat earthers. Yeah, flat earthers. There's a very small minority of the population, because in the Bible it actually tells you that the Earth is round. So in the Bible itself, now I don't get into the Bible. I'll keep my argumentative side against religions in my own box. I don't get into that. I kind of make sure that politics and religion don't really come into the group, because it's a global group, which means we've got all walks, all faiths here. If you have faith, I respect your faith. I respect it enough not to argue. Um, I am not a faithful person. I act like a Christian. I think that helping other people and all that is good, but the other stuff. But the flat earthers, there was only a minority of the population that thought the earth was flat. I personally believe in the flying spaghetti monster. Well, yeah, I can totally understand that. As Australians, we would. Never been in a plane and seen the curve, maybe. Well, you can actually see the curve when you go on a hill, or even if you stand on the beach, you can see that there's a curvature. So, observations. The Greek were able to calculate the ancient Greek had taken geometry from the Egyptians. They were able to use a triangle, and they were able to see that the earth had a curvature of it, and they were able to work out that angle just by using an angle to be able to define that there was a curve. By doing the straight lines off of that, they were then able to calculate that the earth was about, I think they calculated about 14,000 kilometers, or 9,000 miles circumference. Diameter 9,000. It's 13,000 kilometers round ish. So yeah, I mean, geometry did that. If the earth was flat, how come the sun disappears over the horizon? Yes, yeah, well, it just dropped off. Like that, they thought that it was a chariot, didn't they? A lot of them thought that it was a chariot. Ra, you go back to Egyptians, the sun itself was the god Ra, and he turned up. And then night was another god that that run the night. I always think of it as Nox, but then that's some of the stuff I've read. Anyway, that's going off topic. I'm not going to be on here for much longer because I've already taken up a lot of your time. Do you know, I shit myself every time I think about I'm going to go live in the group. And yet when I'm actually on here, yeah, Apophis, yeah, may well be. No, Anubis ran the afterlife, so it was maybe same trigonometry to calculate the size of a ball and caged ball. Yes. Trigonometry is the key. Your sine, your cosine, and your tangents. We did a fair bit of that at school. We did, you did. Oh, I'm Doug. Actually, my name's Douglas. Because I haven't got a spade in me. How do you... what do you call a man with a spade in his head? Doug. What do you call a man with no spade? Douglas. What do you call a lady on a tennis court? Annette. What do you call a lady with one leg? Eileen. What do you call a man with 100 rabbits up his bottom? Warren. A man with an inch dick? Justin. I'm going to leave that alone. What's brown and sticky? A stick. Well, guys, I've enjoyed Friday Night Live. Grown. Art. I haven't heard that one. Thank you very much. It's a new one. Another one to my clean bunch of jokes. Matt, yeah, absolutely. I always leave the lives laughing. It's nice to communicate with you. It's we've sort of hovered at about 15 people that have been here for the whole live, and of course there'll be a lot of people that will catch up with us later. We have discussed finishes, so it has been group based. Hopefully it's either and one that wants to get to the other side of a swimming pool with no arms and no legs, Bob Hope. Oh dear, oh dearie. I've had fun. I kind of enjoy the lives. I'm scared. I have stage fright. I don't know what I'm going to talk about before it actually starts, and then I don't know, something takes over, personality, you guys, interaction, personal interaction, makes the group feel like a family rather than, it makes the group feel more knitted, because at least you've seen me. I only get to see your display pictures. That's a bit of a shame, but it's really nice because the interaction makes me feel like the group has living people in there rather than just a facade of display pictures and people just wanting their ego stroked. I love that the group shares the process and the journey. I wrote that up during the week, that seeing how we do things is how so many people learn, and for that you teach me, and I'm so grateful because you are my teachers, all of you. I learn from you, I gain information, I share that information back when I gain it, because I think that that's what you should do. I don't think that you should profit off knowledge. I think that knowledge should be free to everybody. Let people decide and make do with it as best they can, but better informed, better inspired, better motivated, we get product, we do this. Send hello vids to Colin on the feed, people. Yes, please. But don't just send it to me, send it to the group, because we are having a group hug. Yay! I love you guys. I really do. Thank you very much for putting up with my probably an hour's worth of waffle. I haven't actually got the time up, so I don't know, but I would imagine it's probably close to the hour mark. It usually is. I look forward to this week on the feed, and I will see you next Friday for Friday Night Live. Safe and happy carvings, guys. See you on the feed. Love you. Good one, Steve.